Ooh, ooh. What's up, y'all? We back at it. And just like anything else, y'all, we must stay active. If you're not staying active physically, you must stay active mentally. If you're not staying active mentally, you want to stay active spiritually. You want to stay active in your studying and anything you do, in your craft, in your daily ins and outs, in your progression towards your goal, your success, your building, and all that other good stuff. Y'all, this is gonna be a little short, little series about boxing, and it's coming straight from the encyclopedia. All right, so I guess this will be something like boxing history encyclopedia, something in that nature. But we got to give a big shout out. You know what? We didn't give enough shout outs. We're gonna do we're gonna do some affirmations for y'all. You know, so we affirm y'all progression and y'all success. To everybody on here who's listening, to the L team, to all you warriors, combatants, artists. Shout outs to the brothers with the 52, man. Y'all know when you learn so much stuff, a lot of times I don't want to say you forget the stuff you learn, but you push it so far back in your memory and your brain, and it just takes someone to galvanize it, to bring it back out, to help you remember, because remembering is way better than forgetting, y'all. But and shout out to all you scientists, because if you're a fighter, you at the core, if you do any type of studying, you also are a scientist. If you're a human being, if you do any type of making food and I hate to say it, making dope or building a tent, you're a scientist. You have to use trial and error and hypotheses and try things out. But keep on studying, y'all. And when I think about it, first, myself, Coach Collier, I'm first a historian. Well, actually, when I started grappling in my mother art wrestling, I'm slamming folks. I was 14, so I actually started the art first, and then I began studying. Then I began doing the history, and then I began forming the philosophies after reading such great men like Bruce Lee and Joe Louis and Ali and Lao Tzu. And philosophy is real big. The great Hannibal, the philosophies of war and all that. But just keep polishing up your skill in every way that you can. All right? So without further ado, let's get right into it. All this information and big affirmations to Porter off the L team, man. He's kind of like I don't want to call him a booster, but y'all know them people that they're real crafty. They know how to get their hands on a lot of things, and sometimes it's not boosting. They just kind of like Fred Sanford, or they're like pack rats. They just know how to get stuff for cheap and go to antique shops, and they just know how to gather things, and he shares it a lot with me and my brothers and a few of my friends. He's just real good at getting stuff, and he got this whole collection. Y'all, if y'all got collections of encyclopedias, you need to hold on to them. He got this whole collection. This encyclopedia is called Collier's Encyclopedia, 4th edition. All right, or maybe it's not the 4th edition. Let's see. Now, I'm assuming it's the 4th edition, but it was published in 1963. All right, so we're reading straight from Collier's Encyclopedia of 1963. So thank you again, Porter, and keep doing your thing, man. You're a great brother. All right, so let's get right into it. Collier's Encyclopedia. Boxing.
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to go to war right now.
Boxing, known originally as pugilism, from the Latin pugil or pugil, parentheses, a boxer, unquestionably had its beginnings in prehistoric times. The desire of man to engage in physical combat is as old as man himself.
Beat him all night.
And there appears to be no doubt that it was the urge to satisfy this primal human instinct that brought fist fighting into being. In the main, however, It is difficult to fix a specific date for the origin of boxing. Most historians credit the Greeks with founding the sport, although it is agreed that fist fighting certainly did not begin at the stage of development found during the Greek era. Boxing first emerged as an Olympic sport at the 23rd Olympiad in 688 BC, when it already was highly developed. During this period, competitors swathed their hands in soft wrappings, ostensibly for the purpose of protecting them from injury, and footwork as such was largely unknown. Each bout was a fight to the finish.
These represent dynamite.
The legendary Greek hero Theseus presumably belongs to the blame for introducing the cestus, or mailed fist, although this murderous weapon was not extensively employed until after the Romans had conquered Greece. Under Roman influence, the sport became increasingly brutal. Boxing degenerated to gladiatorial combats in which the pugilists wore cestus's and fought to the death of one or the other fighter. Eventually, the use of cestus was prohibited, and during the 1st century BC, boxing itself was proscribed. This temporarily marked the end of boxing as a gladiatorial spectacle, and also as a sport that had originally been regarded as nothing more than a vigorous exercise. Where and under what circumstances the term quote-unquote boxing was brought into being, no one seems to know. The most likely explanation is, however, that an Italian priest, later Saint Bernardino, first used the term in the 13th century. Alarmed by the deaths and injuries which resulted from the use of deadly cestus, Saint Bernardino persuaded combatants to fight defensively with only their bare fists. It was during this crusade that he described the sport as, quote-unquote, the art of boxing up an opponent, thereby first employing the word by which glove competition later became known. Modern boxing. Whatever its beginnings, the modern version of the sport unquestionably springs from the ideas promulgated in England in the early 1700s by the celebrated Jim Figg. Figg, a prominent fencer and duelist, successfully launched the ring sport, became the first British bare-knuckle champion, and was looked upon as the sport's spokesman until he was succeeded to the title by Jack Broughton.
I got him cornered. I got the world cornered.
Broughton, like Figg, endeavored to interest the British upper classes in the sport, and in 1743 created a new set of rules designed to make boxing less brutal and more attractive to the ruling class of England. He succeeded to a remarkable degree and is generally credited with giving the sport the impetus it needed to overcome the many shortcomings it had acquired in early years. Out of Broughton's original rules came the revised London prize ring rules, which were the authority for bare-knuckle fighting from the middle of the 18th century until the last bare-knuckle champion bout on July 8, 1889, which was between John L. Sullivan and Jake Kilrain. These rules, incidentally, were the only ones known to the sport for about 100 years. No other formal rules were drawn until the Marquis of Queensberry formulated his famous rules in the 1860s.
Practice don't make perfect, practice make permanence.
Boxing had always been a brutal exhibition in which combatants fought until one or the other was insensible. But the introduction of the Queensberry rules humanized competition. Introduction to Queensberry rules humanized competition and laid the groundwork for the present day conduct of the sport. The following 12 points comprise the Queensberry rules. Rule 1. To be a fair stand-up boxing match in a 24-foot ring, or as near the size as practicable. Rule 2. No wrestling or hugging allowed. Rule 3. The rounds to be of 3 minutes duration and 1 minute's time between rounds. Rule 4. If either man fall through weakness or otherwise, he must get up unassisted. 10 seconds to be allowed him to do so. The other man meanwhile to return to his corner. And when the fallen man is on his legs, the round is to be resumed and continue till the 3 minutes have expired. If one man fails to come to the scratch in the 10 seconds allowed, it shall be in the power of the referee to give his award in favor of the other man. Rule 5. A man hanging on the ropes in a helpless state with his toes off the ground shall be considered down. Rule 6. No seconds or any other person to be allowed in the ring during the rounds. Rule 7. Should the contest be stopped by any unavoidable interference, the referee to name the time and place as soon as possible for finishing the contest, so that the match must be won and lost, unless the backers of the both men agree to draw the stakes. Rule 8. The gloves to be fair-sized boxing gloves of the best quality and new. Rule 9. Should a glove burst or come off, it must be replaced to the referee's satisfaction. Rule 10. A man on one knee is considered down, and if struck, is entitled to the stakes. Rule 11. No shoes or boots with springs allowed. And finally, Rule 12. The contest in all other respects to be governed by revised rules of the London prize ring. There still is no official set rules for boxing on an international basis. Now, mind you, y'all, this is as of 1963.
They know it.
Amateur organizations make the rules for amateurs in different countries, and professional rules vary even from state to state, although the variations never are too serious for a boxer to overcome. In New York State, for example, the Boxing Commission occasionally recognizes one set of champions, while the National Boxing Association, the NBA, recognizes another. All right, y'all, this is complete part 1. Catch you on the flip.
Keep dancing and sticking. Sidestepping. Bouncing off the ropes. Dancing and sticking.